I think if they continued to bring him down here, Carl would have just totally destroyed the kid's confidence.
Carl, the Truth, Williams.
In the middle of the last century, with the beginning of the era of television, boxing acquired the status of the most popular martial art in the world. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the history of boxing from the perspective of the best boxing fights, which had a huge, epic-making significance in the history of boxing. These are legendary fights that filled huge stadiums, grabbed the attention of hundreds of millions of spectators, and forever changed the history of boxing itself. If you enjoyed watching this episode on our channel, please click the thumbs up and subscribe to the world of boxing. Here, we grab a sense of nostalgia and recall the best fights in the ring, which go down in the annals of boxing history. On December 2nd, 2000, at the Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas, two unbeaten junior middleweight champions, 27-year-old Puerto Rican Felix Trinidad and 22-year-old American Fernando Vargas meet in the ring. Trinidad has 38 wins and 31 knockouts. Vargas, 20 wins and 18 knockouts. Ask any boxing fan what Trinidad is known for, and they'll answer a powerful left hook. Just 20 seconds into the fight, Vargas falls into the simplest trap. Trinidad sets down on a jab and fires his signature blow. The blow strongly shakes Vargas, and then, being under a hail of blows from his opponent, he is knocked down. It was a great start for Tito Trinidad, but less than 5 seconds after the fight resumed, Vargas was back on the floor after a precise left hook to the chin. Before the fight, the Puerto Rican boxer predicted a quick victory, and it seemed he was on his way to it. But Fernando Vargas quickly came to his senses and even began to defend against Trinidad's attacks, using a jab and demonstrating amazing composure.
In a crisis situation here, George, with regularity.
In the second round, Trinidad shook Vargas for a split second, but the results of the previous round did not work. Vargas managed to answer well at the end of the round.
You don't want to be in front of a guy like that. And he's been taking too many punches. Right on the chin. Perfect shot.
The third round was in favor of Trinidad, but suddenly, Vargas's glove scratches Trinidad's right eye, and Vargas takes advantage of the moment. Trinidad gets out of a dangerous position, and a little later in the fight is interrupted due to a low blow by Tito. Vargas takes a long pause for recovery, and it did him well. At the beginning of round 4, Fernando attacked with a left hook. Trinidad was knocked down for only the 7th time in his career. Each of the previous 6 times he was able to get up and win, which was expected by the audience. The situation escalated, and Trinidad inflicts another blow to Vargas below the belt, and the referee removes 1 point from Tito, making the score 10-7 in favor of Vargas, compensating for Fernando's loss of points in the first round. Vargas again takes advantage of the moment and rests for a minute and a half, and again this is good for him. Having regained his strength, he became more active, which created problems for Trinidad. Fernando won the remainder of the 4th round as well as round 5, and Vargas took the lead on the HBO unofficial referee card.
no thumbs on these gloves, kid, but
The victory that seemed so close suddenly began to change, and at the end of the 6th round, Trinidad increased his pace.
Having been thoroughly dominated in 3, 4, and 5. And Vargas, who was moving away early in the round, elects to trade with Trinidad and gets the better of him for the moment.
The first half of the fight was now behind them, and Vargas was ahead of Trinidad in the terms of the number of accurate punches, 122 versus 100.
Your main weapon.
Felix Trinidad started the 7th round with an uppercut and then continued with a right cross. But almost immediately, Trinidad again struck below the belt, losing another point for the 3rd time in the fight. Fernando took a minute pause, but then it became obvious that this was not enough time, as his strength was fading faster than his opponent. Vargas spent the rest of the 7th round on the defensive, and in the 8th round, he was having difficulty responding to Tito's hard attacks.
And this time he doubles the left hook upstairs. And Naseem steps in and pulls him away just as uppercut attempt.
In the 9th round, Vargas increased his activity a little bit, but another problem appeared. Fernando, who had adjusted to the left hook of Trinidad and was able to neutralize it, was now faced with a right cross. He was not ready for this.
Another left to the body by Trinidad to the ribs.
right here, it's toughness of Vargas against the skill. This is the strength of both fighters going at each other. Vargas took some heavy shots there, and he spent a lot of himself, I felt, in recovering. The question now is, how much?
3 rounds to go. Harold, both rounds were very close.
I think Harold has done a good job this time.
And then trading again. Here's a look at the low blow call, Larry.
In the 10th round, Vargas strikes below the belt and loses 1 point. But the boxers ended the round with a fierce exchange of punches.
The executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission was 2 seats away. Meanwhile, they're still busting each other face to face in the ring as round 10 comes to a close.
The same was true for the ending of the 11th round.
Straight punches by Trinidad right up the middle.
There you go, Vargas. He's beating him to the punch and he's grappling him. He's got his arm.
Vargas won the 11th round, but gave his last strength to it. And what happened next became a classic in the world of boxing.
Vargas on a big left hook. And up he gets in a 2-second knockout, or he's lost this fight. Down goes Fernando again. 3, 4, 5.
Did you see Trinidad?
About to get knocked out. Barring a miracle here, it's going to be a closing knockout for Tito. Fernando trying to survive. Fires a couple of punches.
In that fight, the rule of 3 knockdowns in 1 round did not apply. But after 3 falls for Fernando Vargas, the referee decided to stop the fight, which had turned into a one-sided beating.
Closes the show like the champion he is. What a fight. What a fight.
Give the people what they want.
Did they get their money's worth tonight, George?
Gave it to them. And also did Vargas. He also did his money.
With this victory, Felix Trinidad combined the WBA and IBF World First Middleweight titles, and also the #2 spot in the pound-for-pound rankings, after leader Shane Mosley and ahead of Roy Jones Jr. and Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Was that the great fight you anticipated?
Esa fue la gran pelea que tú esperabas. Eso así, yo se lo había dicho, era una gran pelea, pero como se había dicho, yo iba a ganar y así ganó. Yeah, it was the great fight I expected. I told everybody it's going to be a great fight, but I knew I was going to win.
Is that the toughest fight you've ever been in?
Esa es la pelea más difícil que tú has tenido. Bueno, ha sido una pelea bien fuerte. Vargas es un gran peleador, un peleador fuerte, pero yo siempre vengo bien preparado. Yeah, it was the toughest fight, and it was a tough fight. But Vargas is a good fighter, but I came well prepared.
You knock him down 2 times very quickly in the first round. Did you think the fight was over then?
Lo tumbaste 2 veces en el primer round. ¿Creíste tú que ya se había terminado la pelea? Pensaba que sí, pensaba que la pelea iba a durar poco, pero él trae una buena condición y me pudo durar los 2 hasta. I thought the fight was going to be over quick, but you got to give credit to his stamina, his conditioning. That's why he lasted.
Fernando, what were your impressions of the fight looking back?
Taking nothing away from Felix Trinidad, I think he's a great champion, a great fighter. His experience, I think the experience that he was talking about was trying to be a little dirty, you know. I heard him in the 4th round, and when I knocked him down, and when he got up, the first thing he did was, hit me in the balls, you know what I'm saying, and 2 other times, he hit me again, and what can I say? I take nothing away from him. He was a better man that day.
You had an aura of invincibility about you. You felt that very deep inside you. Is this a shock to you, having come out of a fight that way?
It's a shock to me because it's not something that I wanted to come out, like this, but, it's not the way I expected it, and I don't think if, we would have been playing fair, I would have came out like this, but, I give him all the credit in the world. He was a better man.
Are you afraid that this is going to be perceived as an alibi?
No, people can say what they want to say, I'm giving him all the respect in the world. I'm saying that he was a better man that night. He beat me. Mm-hmm. I'm not making complaints or anything, but I'm saying.
Just to go back, when you knocked him down in that 4th round, did you feel, okay, now I'm there, now I'm getting him, and now I'm going to get him out?
When I try to come with something, I got hit in the balls. Definitely. He just he had a great game plan, he got me out of my game plan.
What impressed you about him as a fighter, being in there with him?
I think he's, even though, he gets hurt, he can come back. I think that's impressed me.
He's tougher than people
I think he's tough. I always thought he was tough, so, that didn't surprise me about him being tough, but, him being hurt and him being able to use his head and knowing, I guess, tricks and I guess an experience of the game.
So was it premature to take that fight, as many people claimed, or are you glad you've had the experience, even if it was a hard one?
I'm glad I had the experience, and I just want to show the world that, I'd love to the rematch, and hopefully he wants.
October 4th, 1997, IBF lightweight world champion, 25-year-old Arturo Gatti, defends his title for the 3rd time. Gatti won the belt in December 1995 by defeating Tracy Harris Patterson and signed to HBO right after that. In the next fight, the TV channel could only rejoice at the new cooperation and the drama that Gatti arranged in the ring. In March 1996, during his first title defense against Wilson Rodriguez, Gatti was knocked down in the 2nd round, and by the 5th round was losing the fight on points. But in the 6th round, he knocked out his opponent. The victory was a real breakthrough in Arturo Gatti's career. During the 2nd title defense, he faced Patterson again and defeated him again.
A unanimous decision, and still junior lightweight champion of the world, Arturo Gatti.
His rival during the 3rd defense was ex-world champion, the 27-year-old Gabriel Ruelas. In December 1995, Ruelas lost the WBC title to Azuma Nelson. For Ruelas, who had almost 50 fights behind him, the fight with Gatti was the last big chance in his career.
It was ruled a low punch. You could be sure that
Ruelas, an effective body punch.
Fighters, like you said, both of these guys.
Gatti started the fight very confidently. The most important element of his work was the jab. He quickly and timely attacked with his front hand, preventing the opponent from finding his own rhythm and approaching too close. Even in those moments when Ruelas tried to go in for a tough exchange of punches, Gatti was experienced in these situations and always came out the winner. At the same time, Gatti tried to avoid protracted exchanges.
Gabe was landing a number of punches here on Gatti this early.
When Ruelas managed to come to close range and take a comfortable position, he looked good, but attacking in dynamics from a long or medium distance, he did not have sufficient leg work and acted sweepingly, which Gatti used to his advantage.
Here we see Gatti landing his best punches in the first 2 rounds. A big right hand that Ruelas back from at the cost of a left hand that is just as devastating. Heavy stuff, Roy, and both are taking it so far.
Ruelas relying almost exclusively on power shots, as is his habit. He's thrown 98 of them in the first 2 rounds and landed 37, but Gatti is landing more than half.
At the beginning of round 3, Ruelas went ahead and tried to carry out attacks on the body as often as possible. But then Gatti switched on the jab again and kept the opponent at a distance. At the end of the round, he delivered a solid strike. The beginning of the 4th round went to Gatti, but after that, something went wrong. Ruelas went on a protracted attack.
Come back to fighting freely and comfortably at the level at which he once fought. If he can do that here tonight, I think they could stand a loss just to see Gabe back at his best.
Well, I don't think he has losing in mind. He's landing a terrific flurry here the last 20 seconds.
He's having an excellent round. Left hook to the body, right to the
Mean punches here. Everything has bad intent written all over it.
Gatti managed to stop his opponent, but not for long. Ruelas managed to get out of the exchange and shook Gatti with an uppercut.
He stumbles. Ruelas with a chance. Arturo Gatti momentarily.
Gatti came to his senses a little, gathered his strength and counterattacked, but the round ended.
That did the damage to Gatti, and it was that one right there. Then a low blow, and comes back at the end of the round to let Ruelas know he isn't going anywhere. Not yet.
Round 4, a brilliant round for Gabe Ruelas, who landed a 22 for Gatti. Overall, Ruelas 46 out of 88, 52% in the round. We told you you'd get your money's worth from this bout.
Ruelas now knew he could shake his opponent, so he did not postpone in the attack. Gatti forgot about the jab and began to get involved in hard exchanges. This led to Gatti missing another heavy uppercut. Gatti was not going to give up, but the fight that had been going in his favor now took on a different outlook. At this point, it could not be said that Ruelas was going to win, but he had already shaken Gatti twice, and bruises began to appear on Gatti's face, along with a large cut under his left eye. But Arturo, even being in such an unpleasant and dangerous position, accepted the rules of the game and began to strike Ruelas with his own weapon, uppercuts.
Right hand bomb, and Ruelas says, hey, you can't hurt me. I'm going to hit you back.
That left uppercut is a vicious weapon for him.
Even though Gatti basically had to back up, he began to interrupt Ruelas' attack. Nevertheless, Gabriel continued to push forward, but he still underestimated one aspect: Gatti's striking power. Arturo Gatti's left hook was very powerful and knocked out Ruelas. Ruelas got up, but referee Benji Estevez stopped the fight, and the boxer did not dispute this decision. The fight between Gatti and Ruelas received 3 awards. For Fight of the Year, the Knockout of the Year, and the 5th round was recognized as Round of the Year. This was Gatti's last appearance in the semi-lightweight division, after which he left the title and moved up to lightweight for 2 memorable bouts with Ivan Robinson.
Just seems to have a bottomless well of willpower that just... thank you very much, Jim, and especially I want to thank these 2 warriors for the show they just put on. Another easy one. Arturo?
I knew this fight would be very hard. It could have been either way. You hurt me in the fourth round. Very strong fight, and I expected this. I trained very hard, but you took a lot out of me at the beginning.
Did you think that the stoppage was justified? How hurt were you?
I mean, I was hurt, but you know, maybe it was best for the referee to stop it. You know, maybe I could have gotten hurt. I was a little bit hurt, but you know, I could have gone down. But then, you know, then again, I could have gotten hurt really bad.
Have you fought anyone as tough as this guy before? Because you hit him with your best stuff.
Did I? No, I mean, he's a hell of a champion. I give it all to him, and I hope he keeps the title for a while. You know, but he's a great fighter.
Do you feel finally that you gave a performance that you could be proud of for the first time in several years?
I feel I did. I don't know. I have to go and watch the fight. I mean, you know, it's not easy to give a great performance against a guy like Arturo Gatti. So, you know, I give him all the credit that he deserves, and I hope he keeps that title for a long time. You know, he's a great fighter.
Thank you, and we hope we see you again, Gabriel.
Thank you.
All right.
Congratulations.
Arturo, you've talked about fighting Angel Manfredi. He's talked about fighting you. Is that what's going to be up next?
Probably. Like I said, I will fight Angel Manfredi by one way. Winner takes all, I fight him.
Pay-per-view bouts featuring participants from the lower weight categories are rare, but the rivalry between Marco Antonio Barrera and Naseem Hamed was so popular with the public that HBO did not hesitate to put this fight on the air or sell it through pay-per-view. The price to view the fight was considerable for the time, at $40. 310,000 pay-per-view tickets were sold. As of 2020, the Barrera-Hamed fight remains the most successful pay-per-view featherweight bout. Naseem Hamed went into the fight as a confident favorite. Pre-match layouts were 3-1, and in some cases even 4-1 in his favor. Barrera's guaranteed fee was $2 million. Hamed's guaranteed fee was $6 million. But in the end, he earned $8.5 million for the fight, which at the time made him the second highest paid boxer in Britain after Lennox Lewis. Hamed stated that he wanted to be remembered as the man who raised the bar for featherweight fees, and also brought the same spark to boxing as Muhammad Ali did. Hamed's fights were truly spectacular, thanks to his athleticism and his showmanship. In the U.S., Hamed also quickly gained fans. His American debut in 1997 against Kevin Kelly lasted only 4 rounds, but in those 4 rounds, each of the boxers hit the floor 3 times. He defeated the bulk of the division's top fighters, including Puerto Rican boxing legend Wilfredo Vasquez. Of his 15 fights in the featherweight division, Hamed finished 13 by knockout. Therefore, most observers agreed that Naseem Hamed was the strongest boxer of this weight. Overall, the Briton had a 35-0 track record, of which 31 were KOs. Another interesting point with the pre-match dealings was that both boxers were 27 years old. But if Hamed was considered a fighter in his prime, then Marco Antonio Barrera, at the same age, was called a veteran. The Mexican made his professional debut at the age of 15, and by the age of 27 had 55 fights. The longest break he had ever had taken between fights was after he had 2 defeats in a row from Junior Jones. In the first fight, he lost by knockout, although a disqualification was recorded in the official result, as Barrera's coach jumped into the ring before the referee could stop the fight. An interesting note, Naseem Hamed was present at the first Jones-Barrera fight, and if Barrera had won, then their match would have taken place back in 1997. In the second fight with Jones, Barrera lost on points and took what was a very long break for him, 10 months. Even in 2000, after his February war in the ring with Eric Morales, Barrera fought 3 more fights that same year. And after such a busy schedule, he went to fight Hamed just 4 months later. Marco Antonio Barrera was a classic Mexican boxer, and that style seriously let him down in those 2 fights against Junior Jones. But after these 2 setbacks, many noticed that Barrera's style began to change, and refined elements of classic boxing began to appear in him. In the eyes of the public, however, it still wasn't enough. An already pretty battered Mexican veteran versus a gifted British star with a heavy hit. Besides, Hamed's coach in this fight was Emanuel Stewart. Many experts considered the fight easy money, both for Hamed and for the organizers. 28 out of 30 commentators predicted the victory of Naseem Hamed. Almost before the start of the fight, an unpleasant episode occurred for Barrera. When it was time to enter the ring, Marco Antonio was ready to leave the locker room. He was informed that Hamed had decided to retape his hands, and Barrera would have to wait. As a result, Barrera sat in the locker room for 30 minutes, not knowing when to enter the ring and how intensely to warm up. George Foreman, who commented on this fight, said that most likely Hamed did it on purpose in order to unsettle his opponent before entering the ring. However, in the first round, the left hook from Barrera unsettled Hamed himself. Naseem responded to the Mexican's attacks with a smile, and his smile was met with an accurate jab. This was one of those fights where the audience immediately knew that they had not wasted their money. They knew that an excellent fight awaited them. Big things were initially expected from Hamed, but as it turned out, the leading role in this performance was taken by his co-star.
Round one is all Barrera as Prince Naseem takes several power shots from the Mexican star.
Barrera fighting an intelligent, measured fighter. Briefly dazed him early in the round, later came on to land those.
To give advice, you got to work on his. Now he's got Barrera clowning a little bit. That's what you want, get out there.
Barrera refused to concede to his opponent in anything, and by the second round, passions began to heat up. Hamed went into the clinch, and Barrera moved Hamed to the ground. Hamed continued to hold Barrera by the neck. Barrera did not like the fact that he was viewed as a springboard to strengthen Hamed's status as a superstar in the United States. He did not like Hamed's arrogance, who had even tried to intentionally enter the ring in Barrera's corner and was blocked by the Mexican team. The episode mentioned earlier, with the delay in entering the ring, only added fuel to the fire. Barrera had been in this business for too long and knew perfectly well that his opponent had decided to play psychological games with him.
What are you waiting on? Two rights, then a left. Two lefts, and then a right. He hasn't found his rhythm yet.
Barrera lands a jab. Well, he's got enormous reflexes.
In round 3, Hamed looked a little better than in the previous 2 rounds and made some good attacks. Because of this, 2 out of 3 judges gave the round to him, although the decision was somewhat controversial. It might seem that the Briton began to find his rhythm, but Barrera took the 4th round without question.
Barrera bringing the right hand.
One shot.
Shooting the straight left down the middle. That's what Prince Naseem wants to do. Barrera goes to the body.
Every round, Barrera should send him to the corner.
Very composed Barrera.
That was a headbutt there.
Oh, take us home. Hands is gone. Big left hand by Prince Naseem.
The 5th round was taken by Hamed, though the 3rd minute turned out to be equal. However, in the end, Hamed landed a hard left hook and then a right hook to Barrera's torso.
He's doing more damage to you rather than saying value.
Trying to set up a right hand, or maybe wanting to.
Whether the Prince has been thrown off.
At the end of the 6th round, Hamed decided to play dirty, hitting the Mexican in the face with his forearm. Barrera responded and made him understand that he should not play those games. Before the start of the 7th round, Hamed's coach, Emanuel Stewart, warned his boxer, not for the first time, that he was losing the fight, and if he continued in the same spirit, he would face the first defeat in his career. Hamed stepped up, but Barrera quite easily nullified Hamed's attacks with a fairly simple but effective technique. He would deliver a jab and then move to the left. Barrera constantly left the line of attack, and it seems that all of Hamed's beautiful combination work was disabled by a simple tactic. Because of this, almost all of Hamed's attacks turned into single hits, which were read by Barrera quite easily. In the 8th round, Barrera continued to prove his skill at interpreting Hamed by anticipating his use of a traditional British tactic and countering it. Naseem holds his hands low, and after his attack returns his hand to the same familiar position, and not to his chin. Interestingly, the Mexican did not rush to attack, which speaks of a clear plan for the fight and a tactical endurance. The 9th round was developing relatively calmly, but towards the end, one of the most memorable moments of the fight took place, when Hamed charged to attack, but ran into a sweeping left hook by Barrera.
One problem with Hamed, he throws that big left hand. When he misses, he is off.
In the 10th round, Hamed tried to turn the tide of the fight and even succeeded in attacking, but he failed to wrest control from his opponent's hands. Hamed believed that he was facing a fight with an ordinary boxer who would attack immediately from the first seconds. And Barrera himself constantly repeated before the fight that he would attack without interruption. But that evening, Hamed was opposed by a concentrated and well-trained counterpuncher. In this fight, Barrera only had to wait for his opponent to come to him. In many fights before, it was obvious that Hamed makes many mistakes in the attack. For instance, he often attacks with his chin high. In fights with other rivals, he got away with it thanks to his speed, reaction time, and maneuverability. But this evening, he had a rival of a different level. Barrera made meticulous analysis of his own 3 defeats from Jones and his performance in his fight with Erik Morales. This, together with the desire to progress and hone skills, produced excellent results. The world was presented with a completely new Marco Antonio Barrera, which by his example showed that it is never too late to develop new abilities and improve yourself. And Naseem Hamed had no approach to an opponent of this level of difficulty. In the 12th round, Hamed, knowing he was behind, swung wildly and missed Barrera, who in turn placed Hamed in a lock and slammed his head into the turnbuckle. It did not look like something emotional, but as an action with the expectation of finally finishing off the opponent from a psychological point of view. Considering Hamed's arrogant behavior before the fight and earlier in the ring, the audience accepted this episode with enthusiasm. But referee Joe Cortez deducted 1 point from Barrera, which was booed by the audience. Despite this, Barrera won the fight by unanimous decision and was awarded the championship featherweight title. Even before the official announcement of the decision, Hamed's coach, Emmanuel Stewart, approached Barrera and congratulated him on his victory. Before this fight, Naseem Hamed said that he did not consider Barrera the most serious rival in his career, and as a result, Barrera turned out not to be just the most serious rival, he turned out to be the one who ended Hamed's career. Under the contract, Naseem had the right to demand an act of revenge, but he did not use it and disappeared from sight for a whole year, and then returned to the ring to fight an unknown boxer, for which he was booed by the public. This was the end of Naseem Hamed's professional career, but as for Barrera, his career took to new heights, and he had several high-profile fights ahead of him, including a confrontation with Erik Morales, Manny Pacquiao, Juan Manuel Marquez, John Lee Tapia, and Paul Anthony Ayala. Barrera retired 10 years after his fight with Hamed in 2011 and began working as a commentator on Mexican television alongside Julio Cesar Chavez. In 2017, Marco Antonio Barrera was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Please do not forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any new episodes about the boxing legends of the past. See you next time.